News 3 Now presents Names Behind the Numbers.
State Department of Health Services has confirmed the first case of coronavirus here in Wisconsin. Brings the total number to 8 now.
Dane County is at 23. 25 new positive cases.
More than 10,000 cases statewide.
48 more people have died.
One person is now dying every 40 seconds.
Madison and Dane County leaders are implementing new rules tonight, banning mass gatherings.
Issuing a safer at home order isn't something I thought we'd have to do.
We have seen so much suffering and loss.
I'm missing. I'm really missing.
I was on the floor crying, and I really thought that maybe my kid was going to grow up without a mom.
Months in the making, a COVID-19 vaccine is here in the Madison area.
First group of healthcare workers in Wisconsin received their first shot.
I was actually surprised by how emotional the experience was.
Next year at this time, when we're talking, we're going to have Thanksgiving.
Those are moments from the last 9 months. Months which have generated a flurry of numbers. Hundreds of thousands of COVID cases in Wisconsin alone. Thousands of people hospitalized. And the most sobering number, more than 4,000 deaths.
We've compiled and shared those statistics with you daily to keep you informed of the most significant health crisis of our time. But tonight we're going behind the numbers, hearing directly from the people who are those figures. And we're starting with a man you've seen often here, whose message 34 days ago inspired this show.
I just wish that, I could give them my eyes for a minute. When I see people, their faces when I tell them they have COVID-19, wondering what's going to happen. Or when I look inside an ICU room and I see someone who was healthy, who's now paralyzed on a ventilator, who can't see, their kids because we have no visitor restrictions. I think it's the stories that are going to convince people to change what they're doing, not necessarily the numbers.
UW Health's Dr. Jeff Pothoff is back with us tonight. And Dr. Pothoff, thanks as always for joining us. You have been such a great resource over the course of this past year. Hopefully, we're starting to see just a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
We have had some good news now for the last couple of weeks, and that's just welcome. We went through a really tough patch there. It's not over yet. We still see a lot of people getting COVID-19. There's still a lot of sick people. There's a lot of suffering, but at least the news for the last couple of weeks has been positive.
Yeah, things seem to be trending in the right direction. Hospitalizations are down and new cases are down, but the rate of infection is still relatively high.
Yeah, I think that's important. Oftentimes when I hear good news, I start to think that the tragedy is over. And even last night, working in the emergency department, I was clearly reminded that it is not.
Welcome back, everyone. We have seen COVID affect people in very different ways, and that includes our next guest, whose husband had a mild case.
But Sue Slauson went from the ER back home, eventually to the ICU. Sue and her husband, Maury, are joining us tonight via Zoom from their home in Lake Mills. And good evening to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tell us a little bit. You did go on a ventilator. Tell us a little bit about that moment when you were faced with that diagnosis there, when you were faced with going on a ventilator, and what your thought process was at that point in time.
When I had gone in, I don't know, and I've got it written up in my health profile for the future. I don't want to be ventilated, and I told them that. I said, I don't want to go on a ventilator. And when it came right down to it, they said, this isn't forever. It's not going to keep you alive. It's going to get you to the point that you'll be healthy again, hopefully, but when they all came around me and said, you have to do it now or tell us how you would like to die comfortably.
Oh my goodness.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I guess they're serious. I thought they could fix me, without having to do that. And at that point, I said, okay, go ahead and put me on it. And I was only on 6 days, although it seemed like it was over a month. It was horrible.
We opened this show going through some numbers, and there is another one we want to mention tonight. 1%. It's a way some people have minimized the pandemic, claiming only 1% of people who get COVID end up dying from it.
Well, our next guest takes exception to that. She told us when that 1% is your family, it's an awfully big number. Dina Boyle lost her mother to the virus, and she joins us now from her home in Madison. Dina, I am so sorry for your loss. We send you our heartfelt condolences to your entire family. When did you lose your mother? How raw and fresh an experience is this for you right now?
Well, she died on August 8th, so a little over 4 months, but every day it just hurts all over again. Very fresh.
Tell us about your mom.
You know, my mom was an extraordinary woman. She was the oldest of 9, the matriarch of her family, just an amazing mom. She was healthy. She went to the gym 3 days a week. She was about the healthiest 75-year-old I know. She played golf. She played mahjong. She was in her church women's group. She did it all. And, you know, she was frustrated and bored that COVID happened and she had to quarantine. You know, but she just kept going until she started getting symptoms, until she came down with the fever.
And your dad, we understand, also suffered through this as well. Tell us a little bit about his battle.
Yeah, and my dad, so my parents actually, we think were exposed at the same time because they came down with symptoms about 10 hours apart. Of course, we were a little more worried about my dad than my mom because my dad's had heart issues. He was on blood pressure medications and cholesterol meds. He'd been treated for prostate cancer in the past. So in our minds, we were very worried about my dad and not so worried at all about my mom. But, you know, as their fevers progressed for about a week, my mom's was always a little higher than my dad's. They live in an area which actually was a little behind the 8 ball with the testing. Their area had not been hit hard at all in the spring, in March. And so they actually didn't get their test results back. I think it took 5 days. So they actually got their positive results the night before they were admitted to the hospital.
Like so many people, you live far from your parents. And they are not in Madison. And that is a stress that people cannot even imagine. I can relate to that because I'm in the same boat as well. So were you panicked thinking, how can I get to them? That was at the height of the pandemic and you had to, did you get on a plane? What did you do?
Absolutely. I was in a panic because I actually work at a hospital. And so I know how serious it is. I've seen the stress on our staff and I see the numbers every day. I was very concerned, especially as their fevers were, you know, extended through that week and my mom wasn't as communicative on the phone anymore or by text. And I was torn with what to do at first because I knew once I got there, I wasn't going to be allowed in the hospital anyways, but I couldn't stand being so far away. And basically what ended up happening, and I was hoping, of course, you know, what are the chances, right? What are the chances they're going to be in that 1%? I need to be prepared to go and be with them and help them recover. That's really where my thought process was until my mom was being held in the ER, and I knew that they were really keeping an eye on her and not sure which way she was going to go. And her nurse called me in the middle of the night and said she was headed to the step-down unit because she wasn't holding her oxygen levels high enough. And so I literally, there was a plane leaving from Chicago in 3 hours and I booked it and I got there and got on that plane to be there.
Yeah, Dina works as the foundation director at SSM St. Mary's in Madison, St. Mary's Hospital. And your dad, is he, the aftermath of this had to be very difficult. You have a large extended family, I would assume, based on the size of your mom's family. But also you needed to be there for your dad, I would assume, too. And that's difficult when he's recovering himself. And again, as Susan mentioned, a distance away. How is he now?
He's doing okay. Health-wise, he's doing amazing. He actually came home without oxygen. He does have trouble if he's breathing through a mask or doing a little too much work around the house. He'll have to take it easy because his oxygen levels will go down a little. But I think the hardest part for my dad is really is grief. I mean, we really weren't sure if my dad was going to survive this. They were married 54 years.
Wow.
They had never lived alone. They went from being married at 21, you know, living with their parents to being married. And my dad felt a lot of guilt. Why did he survive? And why didn't she? And, you know, it breaks my heart to this day. The last time that my dad got to see my mom, he was in the hospital for a week and they wheeled him past her ICU room to look through the glass while she was already on the ventilator. And that was the last time that my dad got to see her.
Oh, that is heartbreaking. Were you able to be with your mom at the end of her life?
I was. I think I really consider that a blessing because I know that there are so many people that don't have that opportunity. But the very unfortunate decline of my mom's health, the way things happened, we knew, and I was given the opportunity, and so I was in full PPE, and I was able to be with her at the very end.
Truly a blessing. A lot of us have had, throughout the process of this whole pandemic, have had our view of this virus change. How have you kind of evolved, or the people close to you, have they evolved with this virus as time has gone on?
You know, I think one of the most striking, I guess, realizations of this is most people don't know someone who's died from COVID, and the number of people who have reached out to me, and when it hits closer to home, it just takes on a different light in a way. And I think people realize that it can happen to someone, it can happen to your loved ones. And I just, with what the doctor's words, earlier, if the people that I know and love and my friends and colleagues, well, a lot of my colleagues do see it this way, but if more people could see it through my eyes and through my ears, through, calling the nurses, getting the updates, taking one step forward and two step back, and understanding how anxious and how just this is really difficult for people to go through on both sides. It's difficult for the caregivers, it's difficult for the family members, and I just can't even imagine how scared and how anxious my mom must have been when she couldn't breathe and they just couldn't figure out a way to help her. So all this experience has just made me very conscious of how important it is to take the right steps to be healthy, wear your mask, social distance. You don't want to be, I think sometimes about, what about that person who infected my parents? If they would have known, no one would do this to anyone. So we just have to do our own part, and we have to all be in this together.
Boy, there's been a lot of changes in 30 years, but there has been one constant here at News 3 Now in all of that time. Meteorologist Gary Canalti.
But for several weeks this fall, we were without Gary. COVID put him in the hospital and affected his entire family, but we are thrilled that Gary is back on the mend, and he agreed to share his experiences with us tonight. Gary, great to see you. It's been great to have you back in the building the last several days. I am just saying that. That's true, but no, I'm kidding. It really is great to have you back. And how are you feeling?
Feeling better, getting stronger. So hopefully I'm back on the mend. Couldn't get the fever down. I'm getting a little weaker each day, but yeah, even a couple of those days, I actually was strong enough to do some work from home to help out behind the scenes. But by Tuesday and Wednesday, I was really knocked down. And even, that's when I started, just getting out of bed and going to the bathroom. I was almost out of breath. And that's kind of where I got, a bit worried. Once they got me on oxygen, I could feel a little bit better, and especially getting rid of the fever, which went away pretty quickly. Thanksgiving Day night, they gave me some more Tylenol, and then started putting me on the remdesivir drug and the dexamethasone, which is a steroid to start trying to clear up your lungs. And so, I could start to feel a little bit of improvement each day that I was in the hospital.
And we want to bring back our guests now to kind of reflect on it and also to look ahead. And Sue and Dina, Gary, and of course, Dr. Jeff Pothoff all joining us now. And Dr. Pothoff, we're going to finish this segment with you a little later, but I also want to start this segment with you in talking about how again, we want to remind people there's still work to be done, of course. But this vaccine, I want you to put in words for us what it has meant in terms of morale in the hallways of your hospital.
Really hard to put it into words. It's a shot in your arm. That's not something that usually stirs a deep sense of emotion. But when I talk to people who come back from getting their injection and their eyes are still tearing up, you know that this is a special moment.
Dina, is the arrival of the vaccine a little bittersweet for you because it came just a few months too late to help your family?
Yeah, I had tears in my eyes watching our vaccination clinic open up yesterday at St. Mary's, and I did. Selfishly, it's the first thing I thought of is, wow, just a few months later, and maybe my parents could have been helped. But it really is that dim light at the end of the tunnel. I think we still have a road ahead of us, but it's really comforting to know that we're taking those next steps to get past this.
We hope you think of our guests and you remember their stories and your friends and family as we see this through to the very end. Remember, there are names behind the numbers. Stay safe, be well. Thank you for joining us.